Welcome to Jinapor's Take. My name is Ahmed Jinapor. I'm a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. Today, I speak to you from an important institution that has had a lot of influence when it comes to the educational development of this country. University of Education, Winneba has had an important place in terms of the educational development of this country. Today, we intend to look at an important concept, the JHS program. Just last week, about 4,000 students graduated wrote the basic education examination. What is it? How are they going to be able to contribute to the economic development of the country? Today, we are going to look at it. And I hope that our discussion, in as much as it's going to be not going to be that much, but at least we'll be able to make an impact on the lives of people who have their children at the JHS. Today, we are fortunate to have two very important personalities who have made an important work when it comes to the educational development of this country. On my immediate left, we have Professor Pufa, who has been a people teacher. He's taught at the middle school, at the training college. He happened to have been a student at this university when it used to be a special institution. He's currently an associate professor of education, and Professor Pufa will be helping me do the discussion. Prof, you're welcome to Jinapor's Take.
Thank you very much.
And also I have Dr. Bequin. Dr. Bequin is a lecturer at the University of Education. He's currently the national president of Utah. President Bequin holds a PhD in curriculum, and he has expertise not just in curriculum but also in social studies and mathematics. To help me also sitting on my left is Dr. Bequin. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think I'll start this conversation with Prof. Since you are our eldest senior brother and father. Just last week, we had about 42,000 students go to write the BEC examination. These 42,000 students, we do not know how many will make it to the secondary school, neither do we know how many will make it into the job market. Can you briefly tell us something about this whole JHS, SHS concept as it applies now? What is it about? What brought about this whole concept?
Yeah. You know, JSS, like the junior secondary school, was brought to replace the old system. And this was because it was clear that our educational system was fairly long. From the primary school, 6 years, middle school, 4 years, before you now come out to have a job placement. So the import was to cut down the number of years, not sacrificing the educational value of the child. So that's the thing.
So, what you are saying is that there was too much time spent during the educational, calendar, from primary school to middle school to secondary school, which is all A-level, then to the university. So that brought about the JSS concept. Because you agree with me that it was what? Junior secondary school. But Dr. Bequin, today, we do not have the JSS. We have the JHS. Is there any difference in terms of what it intends to do? And can you explain to us what the...
Before I will answer, let me add to what Professor Pufa said. One other major objective that led to the introduction of the JSS concept was the fact that our educational system has been deemed to be too bookish or grammar-based, if you want to put it that way. And the fact that not many people were moving towards the direction of vocational and technical education in the country. So as a result, there was the need to reform our educational system. The structure took care of the number of years, and then the curriculum was to also take care of the fact that they wanted people to move into vocational and technical education. So at the JSS level, they were supposed to expose to this subject so that they would gain interest in them, and then those who are interested will now branch into that area of education so that we'll have more qualified persons in that area. Now, in 2007, there was an educational review exercise that was done, and fortunately it was chaired by our immediate past vice, Professor Anamon Mensah. And based on the recommendations that they make, they recommended that there were some few things that were not really up to the program, when you look at the JSS concept, and we need to tighten the screws along the line somewhere, introducing ICT into education and all those things. Now, as a result, in the implementation of their recommendation, the government decided to change the name from JSS.
But the question is this. My question is, JSS Junior Secondary School, JHS Junior High School. Was there any kind of difference in terms of what the JHS vis-a-vis the JSS was supposed to achieve? Was it that a mere change in name, or there should have been something more to it?
Yeah, for me, the name change was just semantics, because it's just like moving from the British system to the American system. Americans use the high school, from primary go to middle school, high school, college. British system, which we were used to, they use the secondary school. But you remember, even within that system, when we had secondary schools, there were some few schools in Ghana that were called high schools. We have Kumasi High, Accra High. You get a point. So it does not really matter. It's just they are of the same level. So for me, it was just a matter of semantics. But then the review itself, as I said, was not to, well, it wasn't about name change, but it was about looking at the curriculum that was being done. As I said, apart from the changes in the curriculum, some subjects were also introduced. I gave the example of ICT, for instance, was introduced. Either to ICT was not part of the basic education curriculum, but with the 2007 review, ICT came on board. So there were some changes which made it somehow different from the JSS, but fundamentally they are the same, because structure-wise and eventually what they are supposed to attain at the end are the same.
Yeah, but Prof, you happen to have been around for some time. Dr. Bequin talks about the intent and purpose with regards to the JHS, SHS concept was more to be vocational, practical oriented. And if you remember, somewhere around 1974, the Kwapon Committee, where we had these continuation schools and stuff like that. Do you think the JHS has been successful in more or less addressing the whole issue of inculcating within the child this whole concept of vocationalism and technical education? I mean, what is your take on that? Has the JHS been successful in doing that?
I don't think so. You see, the question my good friend answered, you realize that at that time, we had a middle school, right? And in the existing secondary schools, we had junior secondary schools within, which was made up of Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3, right? So they were known as junior secondary schools. So they had to plow in that idea to replace the middle school that was there. But don't forget, the middle school concept was a terminal point where the product would be equipped enough to go out there and do something or continue into the training college. And don't forget that still at the middle school level, you had to qualify to go to the secondary school, either from Form 1 or Form 2 through a competitive exam. And therefore, it meant that people with interest who wanted to go into secondary education, their line was defined right from Form 1, Form 2, those days. Now, with the advent of the JHS now, you realize that we want everybody to go to secondary school. And so you see, when they write the terminal exams, the final exams, like we just had. Yes. I mean, you put everybody on the focal point of SSS. So everybody finishes, you look at the person's grades, and you place him in a school. Is that person, is he ready to go to secondary school? Has he got the interest to go to secondary school? We still haven't sharpened up that idea of technical. So what happens is that that particular idea has been relegated back to primary school. So you see, those who are in the primary school, okay, they are prepared to go into the JHS. Unlike those days where you will have to also do a competitive exam. And there you will be able to decipher who will have the idea and the quality to go into the SSS. I'm not looking down on the
but yeah, I agree with you. But very quick, Doc, before let me get to you. Yeah. I think so. The whole issue of termination determination in terms of where you end is very, very important and critical. And if you remember, I asked you this question as regards to whether there's a fundamental difference between the JSS and the JHS. And the reason I asked this is, you know, there's this whole debate as to whether the JHS at the level of 15 years old of a child is an appropriate age for the child to go into the job market. Do you understand? Professor Prufa makes the point that, look, the issue of secondary school, which is senior high school, should be an issue of choice. My question to you is this. When you have 42,000 students having to write an end of year, or not an end of year, an end of period exam to be able to ascertain who goes to the secondary school and who stays in the job market, do you think in your own, based on your experience, that this whole issue of people having to write an exam to go to secondary school or not to, do you think it inures to the benefit of the children who pass through that program?
I'll have a different view from what Prof said. I believe that the secondary education, the level, I'm not looking at it in terms of name or what is done there, but that level of education, for me, should be the basic level of education for every...
Which level are you looking at, JHS?
No, SHS or SS, or if you want to call it that way. You see, the issue of JHS, SHS came about as a... at the time that we were implementing the reform in 1987, we were caught up in a kind of... conceptual definition, if we want to put that, as what level of education should be uniform minimal for every Ghanaian. Then, as Prof said, and from that point on, if you want to continue, it becomes a matter of choice. Yes. And then you remember at that point, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania had come up with this concept of Ujamaa and then basic education, where so the first 9 years of education should be basic for every Tanzanian, and it became a concept that other African countries were looking at the possibility of also adopting that concept. And that was the point that we also went in for it. That if you are looking at a point where every Ghanaian will have education, then let's put it that way. That was the reason why the first 3 years of secondary education, as Prof said, that at that time it was also a junior secondary school, was brought down to be added to the primary school to now become basic education. Nigeria had a similar structure, but they decided right from the word go to attach the junior high schools or junior secondary schools to the secondary schools. So you go to secondary school and it's there. You have the first 3 years junior and the same secondary school, the next 3 years senior. And it's the same teachers who teach at the senior level, who are teaching at the junior. You see, so we got it somehow mixed up in the beginning. For me, the issue should be, as you ask, we should, as a country, sit down and then answer that question. What should be the minimum level of education for every Ghanaian? I don't believe that, as at now, the basic education is appropriately qualified to become a minimum.
Basic education here means up to class 6.
No, up to JHS.
JHS, okay. JSS 3, okay.
You see, so we can extend it. And at the secondary school level, it's not only going to be like the grammar level.
But before you go on, let me give you this opportunity again. If you say something is basic, it means the barest, the minimum. So my argument is that, why is it that people are not able to function when even they get to the JHS? Your argument is the JHS is too minimal a level to be deemed minimal. So we need to move up. So what could be wrong? I mean, if somebody goes from, at least, from class 1, and now it's even from kindergarten, from KG1, KG2, then you go to class 1 to class 6, you terminate at the age of approximately 50 years at the JHS level. But based on what you are telling me is that, look, somebody at that level is not able to function. So what could be fundamentally wrong? No, Prof, I'll get to you.
That's only true that the person cannot function. No, but the person cannot. It depends on the measurement the instrument you're using to measure what is.
Let's use measurement in terms of being able to go into the job market.
Very good. If it's about the job market, but the formal job market, then that person is not very ready to move into that. Basically,
what about being responsible?
Oh, for responsibility and the rest, it's part of the curriculum. That's why they do life skills and all those things. So which we expect that graduates from that level are supposed to imbibe those things. So when it comes to those social skills and the rest, for that much, I believe they can attain it. But 15-year-old, if the person is employable at all, what level of employment can the person go into? That's the very...
Let me take Professor Puffer's take on this.
Yeah,
Prof,
you see,
yes.
my take is based purely on growth and development.
Okay.
We know there are 5 major stages of growth and development. The girl child grows faster and terminates at 18 as an adult.
Okay.
The boy child grows slower from puberty and terminates at 21.
Okay.
And it is in that wisdom that we have the critical thinking stage of an individual at 18.
Okay.
Where you qualify to vote, you qualify to do a number of things.
Yeah.
So to support him, I think that at the JSS level, it should be a type of platform to prepare the child now to decide.
But that is exactly what the JHS concept is all about.
It is the concept,
yes.
But the application of the concept is a different story.
What could be the problem?
Well, the problems, I think that one of the major problems was that we rushed into it.
Okay.
We rushed into it, and then look at where they will go. We're not even stable with where they will go after that. We all focus our minds.
You're supposed to go to the SHS.
You go to SSS.
Okay.
And ask them, what are you going to do with the SSS? In the SSS. And those who cannot go to the SSS, you are talking of technical and vocational institutions. Are they in the SSS? You see, we have hyped the issue of the SSS so much, both practically and theoretically, that people, even the small child, doesn't want to go to the technical school because it's already built for SSS. And that's the actual age. At 15, you are supposed to go to SSS. The curriculum is fine. Everything is fine. But our focal point is misleading, which we could conduct a research into just these people who have completed. A number of them will tell you, oh, as for me, I want to be a hairdresser. The ladies, I want to be a hairdresser. Are you going to do hairdressing in the SSS? No way. You see, so we have to take a critical look at that and maybe sort of link between JSS and that of the technical and vocational schools are not there. There are no links there. There are no links there at all. The link is direct and one way towards secondary education. And when you get to secondary school, that is where now we start saying, oh, if it doesn't go well, you go to technical school. Let me tell you, those who cannot make it to the SSS are those who go into vocational schools. And those who have the appetite for technical education still end up going to the university, but with difficulty. With difficulty, because the road map, it has not been carved out for them. They walk on their own way.
But Prof, when you tell me that the road map has not been carved, you look at our educational pyramid. Yep. You start from primary, then you move to JHS.
Yes.
From JHS, we have other routes. One of the routes which you say has been overly hyped,
yes,
and is the SHS concept. But even that, we still have a parallel, what do they call it, area, which is vocational and technical education.
Very good.
My argument is that if you say that the vocational and technical education has not been given that much attention and is being stereotyped, which as a matter of fact has some of its presidents from the Kwapun committee that I talked about, then we are justified to say that. But my problem is that if you say they don't have an avenue in terms of they are forced to go to what? The SHS, then there's a problem. But before I get to you, let me get to Dr. Bekwe. No, very quickly. You know, we have a whole lot of people, and I think Prof made mention to that effect. When you look at the SHS and the JHS, I mean, scientific research shows that there's a lot of people who do not even get to the final year. The dropout rate is very high. Those who get to the final year, most of them are not able to get the basic or core subjects. And even those who pass, because of limited SHS, they are not able to get access to to secondary schools. What do we do with these people that are quote and unquote not anything of their doing, they are deemed to be dropouts? What as a country do we do about it?
The first thing that we have to do is to not just look at the fact that there's a problem and then rush in coming out with a solution. It's to do a critical analysis of the problem, as we said. That's the problem. Yeah. We have to really understand several aspects of the problem: social aspect, psychology of the kids, the economic, everything, because they all come into play in making this problem look that complex. So if you don't critically analyze the problem to understand all these nitty-gritties of the problem, you get it wrong in getting the solution to that. So the first thing that we must do is to do a critical analysis of the problem.
And what is the critical analysis? What specifically?
You see, you put a problem, it's like doing a research. If your problem is not well defined, your research will lack.
But the problem here is that the problem problem here is that we have a number of people which, for no fault of theirs, they are caught up because there's a mechanism which says what you have to write an exam to move to the next stage. But they are dropouts of no fault of them. What do we do?
They are not necessarily dropouts.
No, but that's why I said quote and unquote.
So that's why we need to understand from the point of view. Okay, let's first look at the policy angle. From a policy angle, I said that the developers of the reform at that time, or the proponents of the reform, got it wrong at the point where they said that they are using the JSS system to kind of introduce children at that level to all subjects so that they will now pick from their interest. Now you realize that when they were reforming, from the JSS level, the reform came out with curriculum, SHS reform up to the tertiary level. Socially, every Ghanaian is thinking that when you go into through education, that's the path you choose: primary, secondary, university. That's the thinking. So if you want people to equally see that doing vocational and technical courses or programs are equally as important as the grammar one, you build the same channel for them. But unfortunately, they did that for the SHS and left out the vocational schools. So people who found themselves in vocational schools were kind of ushered into a cul-de-sac where there was no opening for them again, because they were not doing certain subjects. So after that, if they want to continue, they said you don't have EMS, so you cannot continue. It is the 2007 review that has come to correct that. But even that, there's a difficult, because I know some of my students have done studies that some of the kids in these vocational and technical schools are not ready to learn this EMS because they think that it is irrelevant to what they are doing.
Exactly.
So the psyche of the children should also be looked at. That's why I said, like, you have to really understand the problem, do that analysis, and look at all the facets of the problem before you can come out with an appropriate solution. So we must begin by, as I said, doing that critical analysis of the problem. And then when we get to understand every aspect of the problem, then we can sit down and then get a proper solution for it. But in getting a proper solution, as I've said before, we must first answer the question as a country: which level of education do we think every Ghanaian must have? And for me, I'll repeat, at the current level, the basic level, which is the first 9 years of education, it's not enough. We need to go further than that.
Coming to you, Prof, I think Dr. Bequin makes an interesting point that at the end of the day, when we are looking at moving the mainstream secondary educational program without paying much attention to vocational and technical education, we have this situation that we find ourselves in. But still on my question, if the whole change, the whole educational change in 1987, which as a matter of fact emanated from the Jobo Committee, was more or less to revolutionize our educational system by making it technically and vocationally oriented. And today, somebody is assessed to know whether the person should move to the next stage just through standardized testing. Standardized testing. Do you think this testing gives us a good picture of the kind of people, graduates, that we are producing at the JHS level? If not, or if yes, what should be the alternative, Prof?
Definitely not. And I'm happy Doc has got into the thinking that I started with. And I think that maybe it could be one of the ways forward. We should push one more year into the year. One more year. That particular year will now be channeled towards helping the child to decide which way to go. Which way to go, secondary or technical, without much influence from outside, but the individual child. Now, if that is done, at the end, they can write the exams, okay? The placement at GS, which they make so much noise about, every child, oh, my child is placed in this school, he doesn't want this school and that school, that will cease. Because you will have all the vocational and technical schools also lined up to receive people who want to go that way. And those who want to go the secondary school way will also have the schools there. And let me tell you, it will be surprising to know that most of the children on their own would want to go the vocational way. I don't have any empirical evidence to show, but I'm feeling we haven't given them the opportunity. And this is the time. If we want to continue this way, we will make more progress. The termination of the basic education.
So in effect, you are
10 years.
in effect, you are telling me that you agree with this whole concept of termination at the JHS level, but just that it should be extended.
It should be extended 10 years.
And do you think there should be a standardized testing as the basis of determining who moves up and who?
Yes, there should be standardized. You see, there should be a national standard examination for all.
Okay.
Then there will be 2 examinations. It could be 1 examination, but based on some parameters. Those who want to go to secondary school will go this way. Those who want to go to vocational and technical schools will go that way. Whether we like it or not, right now, that is what is happening.
Okay.
Well,
but very quickly, let him finish. Yes. But I'm coming. Let me ask you something. Talking about standardized testing, as part of the JHS system of assessment, there's an important component which is continuous assessment. Is continuous assessment, does it even have a place when it comes to the determination of who moves forward? Go ahead.
Let me start by saying that when it comes to assessment, Ghana is in the Stone Ages. That is my first description of our assessment regime. And if we want to catch up with countries on the global field, that's what they are doing.
When you say Stone Ages, what do you mean? Can you explain this? Because I can imagine the Minister of Education watching this program. You have to. Yes. Yes. Yes.
We need to reform our assessment regime. Let me give you practical examples as to what assessment has done so far as this reform is concerned, this 87 educational reform is concerned, like the vocational and technical education. Before the first exams, you had all over the country schools asking for workshops and the rest. Some tools were provided, but the workshops to house those tools and the rest, for them to do the practical aspects, were not there. Those who could did some kind of practicals. But what happened? Lo and behold, first exams, and they went. And then they said they've mixed up some steps of, if you want to the child to construct a chair, steps are mixed up. The child should rearrange in appropriate order. That is not authentic assessment. They were trying to assess through that way as a form of, you see, correlating it to what they'll be able to do. But it does not necessarily work that way.
No.
If you say that the child should be able to do this, that is what the assessment should be. You don't use any other forms of correlates to determine whether the child will be able to do that, except where it is impossible to get an assessment instrument that will be able to measure what that child should be able to do. Prof is in the area where they do a lot of practical assessment on the field, because that is what their curriculum says they should do. They don't do it in the exams hall. On the field, you should be able to kick the ball. So on the field, they kick the ball. So if the child is able to should be able to construct a table, give the child the materials to construct a table. You don't ask the child to rearrange in order how to construct.
But let's face facts. Let's be realistic. Yes. We have 42,000 students who just wrote an exam.
Yeah, I know where you're going. Let me also ask you this question. Now, between 2 forms of exams.
Yes.
One, I know you're talking about the expense, the cost of the assessment.
The practicality and the reality.
Yeah, and the practicality. Exactly, and it's about even cost, because if you say they should do the table, then it means that you have to provide materials for all of them.
Human resource to do
exactly. If as a country, from the word go, once we realize that that's where we want to go, we should have prepared ourselves for that. That's Prof said, we rushed. We didn't prepare ourselves for that. Then secondly, the issue of cost. Definitely it will be more expensive than the paper test. But the issue, look at the benefits that will be derived from it. So if you do the cost-benefit analysis between 2 tests, One that is able to give you what you really want, but it's expensive, and the other which is absolutely useless, but it's less expensive. Which one will you go for?
I think we'll take a very quick commercial break, and when we come back, my guest today is Professor Pufa, Professor of Education, and Dr. Bequin, Doctor of Curriculum Studies. We are looking at the JHS concept. We just finished writing JHS almost every year. Every year we write JHS exam. Has the JHS concept been able to more or less be a bridge between primary education and that of secondary education? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Jinapor Take. Today we are speaking from the University of Education, Winneba, specifically the Winneba campus. Our topic today is the role and place of the JHS concept. We are fortunate to have two very important people. Professor Pufa is Associate Professor of Education, University of Education, Winneba, and Dr. Samuel Bequin is a PhD holder in Curriculum Studies. He has specialty in Social Studies and Mathematics. Fortunately, he's the National President of UTAG, University Teachers Association of Ghana. Prof, before we went on the break, we were talking about this whole issue of assessment, where a number of people will have to drop, whether you like it or not, because we have what? Standardized testing. Let me ask you again, what do you think needs to be done with these people who happen, for some reason, were not able to make it to what? The SHS level? When we had the O-level, A-level, we had something called NOVDEC, where people who could not make it could rewrite through what? The November, December examination, which as a matter of fact was a supplementary exam for those people. But in this case, at the JHS, we do not have it. And my worry and interest about something of that nature to deal with those people is because of the age of the people who are graduating from the JHS. 14, 13, 15. They live in a world that they think they are somebody, but in reality they are not. Prof, what do you think needs to be done about these people?
Let me go a step back. We all are aware about what happens in our basic schools. Not too long ago, we heard that in Northern region, the vacancies there were in the thousands. I have been to classrooms where one classroom teacher teaches 3 different classes, upper primary. You go to the JSS, the story is not different. Yes. Right. So, it is not just the failure of the child, but let's look at also the possible failure of the system. Yes. Somebody is in Nandam Kusele primary school or JSS. He hasn't seen a computer before. And this is in a doctor's area. You come to now the failure system, that standardization of whatever instrument you want to use to measure all of them. The same child in Greater Accra who watches television every day and does everything. And this poor child in Nandam Kusele primary school or JSS who has never seen a computer. And questions are set. Are we actually measuring the students? First of all, we must correct the system. The schools must have the type of teachers we need to teach them before you assess them.
And if you allow me to add to what Prof has just said about the assessment, because I'm very, very passionate about the assessment system.
That's right.
The issue is that the current, what you said, the standardized assessment that we have, or the non-reference assessment that we have in this country, and the type of questions, because I have taken the pain to analyze the items of at least 3 subjects in the JHS and the SHS. And many of the items have nothing to do with the syllabus. It's now that they are trying to kind of align the questions to the syllabus. But here I told you, the alignment was very bad.
Yeah, but Doc, you agree with me. Somebody may also disagree. But beyond that, let me come in here. The point is that whether you like it or not, there are, in as much as we are human beings, we are definitely going to have differences in terms of performance.
Yeah. Oh, that is true.
It is something that we can't do away with. So my argument is that whether you like it or not, people will have to drop out. But as a society or as a people, we have to make provisions to deal with them. What do we do?
The issue is that if, in the first place, we have to set a certain kind of standards, a bar. Our curriculum, Ghana here, our curriculum is objective-based. It's not a standards-based curriculum. So if you want even to bring standards here, it will be a kind of you are running one system this way and using a different instrument to measure that system. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, you get a point. But the issue of differences in performance doesn't mean that somebody cannot perform at all. If, for instance, we say that this is the bar for somebody in class 3, primary 3, to be able to jump.
Yeah, which we have.
And we have done all the analysis that every child in that, except where the person is disabled, should be able to jump. Then that is the bar that is set. Everybody should jump. But as to their level of jumping, that's where you have the differences.
Exactly.
But so when we have set a performance, that one you cannot say that somebody
we do have the standard set. What I'm saying is that maybe I'm speaking out from a very naive street man perspective. Yeah. So give me the benefit of the doubt. My argument is that in this country, we have a standard which is set that each and every student is supposed to write BC from the JHS level, and you're supposed to make a certain grade point. And that grade point will propel you to the next stage. But my point is that, like it or hate, and I did that comparison with the OA level system because look, Doc, you know very well we knew people who are the O levels system. They will get aggregate 10, but they get English 9. That's GC.
That's right.
You can get aggregate 7. You get mathematics 9. That's GC. But there was an avenue, there was an opportunity for you to rewrite. But at the JHS, it looks as if there's nothing there of that nature. How do we go up? How do we deal with that issue?
Point, even that old system is flawed.
No, agreed. But I just cited that with specific reference. With specific reference to our conversation. Yes.
I don't want even to go back to that. You see, when especially you have set a goal that every child should attain a certain kind of minimum education, the same system should not allow certain people to drop out. Okay. And that is what seems to be happening in this country. Okay. We want every child to reach a certain standard for education, and yet here we have an assessment system that is not attainment based, but it's selection based. Okay. So people being selected is not based on their attainment of curriculum objectives. It's based on the fact that at least the cohort that you wrote the exams with, based on their performance, you have either failed or passed. That is the nature of WAEC exams that we have now. There's nothing like, let's say 50, like for instance, the university level, everybody knows that if you get below 50, you have failed. But that is not the case for BEC University.
That is not it.
Look, Prof, let me take Prof's take. Then I'll come to a very important. Prof, very quickly on this issue. How do we more or less address or bring on board those that, quote and unquote, were not able to attain the standard which was not.
Very good. Now let me go the natural way. The natural way. When I say natural way, the way the individual child grows. You can have two twins, right? I mean twins. Same day, same time, almost. But as they grow, you see the differences. We have what we call the late developer and the early developer. The late developer is not necessarily a failure. He may need 2 years to be able now to reach his level in order to pick up. And all these people who are talking about, they are in their puberty, they are just, most of them don't even know their left from their right. Yeah. The girls are even better. Let me tell you, at that stage, the girls they enter puberty earlier than the boys, so they begin to reason according to their growth pattern. But the boys, they are still naive. For me, there should be a window. There should be a window. And that window should start from P6. You see, you have to cultivate the, what do you call it? The idea of assessment and them. Not what we do these days, continuous assessment. I'm not an expert in it. He will talk to that. But I tell you, I don't think that we are being very genuine in our continuous assessment and how we organize it. I left the primary school level long ago, so I'm not privy to that. But those days, even primary 6, we had the district education officers promotion exams. You don't pass, you don't move. You don't pass, you don't move. And it just essence within the primary 6 setup, the primary 6 syllabus, which you write. And again, there, if I'm not able to make it, I stay back in primary 6. I make it, I go to the JSS. Right. Even the mental development of the child at that level might be too low for the level of delivery in the classroom.
So very quickly, Doc, finally, let me tell you, would you suggest that there should be a remedial for JHS or not?
Yeah. Let me say that the ministry recently announced that they are going to allow, for 1 year remedial.
And where should it start?
No, it is wrong. Yeah, that policy proposal, it's completely flawed from the curriculum point of view. You 9 years before you do remediation, it's never heard of in the curriculum development. If you want remediation to be part of our curriculum, we must start from where education starts. Now,
so what you're trying to suggest is that a 15-year-old child graduates from JHS for some reason, because of the socio-cultural environment, he lives in Fiamu, and he's not able to pass English or maths. He should come and start from class 1.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, then I got it wrong. Okay.
What I'm saying is that if you want remediation to part of your system, you build it in the curriculum in the first place. So right from even KG, when we have our standards rightly set, at any given point in time, when the child is not meeting that standard, remediation is there. So you can have 1 day, even half a day remediation.
But we have it in the system.
We don't. It's not in practice. We don't. So they have half a day remediation or even 1 period remediation.
Okay.
2 to 1 year, depending on the child's disease. So in that way, you practice what we call multiple ability groupings. In the same classroom, we have people with multiple abilities, so they progress according to their abilities. So at any given point in time, it's okay, which people are ready to progress to the next level? Which people are not.
So just put it very simply to the layman. Dr. Samuel Bequin, an expert in evaluation and assessment. I'm asking you this question. Do you, as an expert, do you support or agree that there should be a room for mediation at the JHS level? There should be remedial, not 1 year. No. But you philosophically subscribe to that, but the mode, I hope, Professor.
Yes.
Okay, then very quickly, Prof, let's look at this issue of placement. Placement, computer placement, where an individual buys a scratch card and is placed in a school, and to know whether he or she has been placed, you need to buy a scratch card. What is your take on this whole placement concept? I mean, you know the history of placements. What is your take?
I will own up today that I was one of the origins of placement.
Placement, okay.
With the late Van Redu.
Okay.
Yes. And it was just about somebody wanting the child to go to a particular school.
Okay. But that's natural. Why wouldn't I want my child to go to a particular school? Right. I can't go to that and go secondary school, and my child will go to.
When the placement was made, we started with what do you call that one? The table. Yeah. When the table was Woolensey Secondary School topped all the schools in the north. Woolensey Secondary School topped all the schools in the north because people were like using names Achimota, Adisadal, Infansipen. You get me? And so the place are always choked. That was why this placement system was put in place.
But what is your assessment of it now?
My assessment of now is that I think it's not serving a good purpose. Why? Why? Because it will place somebody who may not even be interested in going to secondary school. My mind is on technical. You go and put me, because I have aggregate 18, you put me in, say, a good secondary school. I go there. I'm handicapped. I have to go because my parents say, "Oh, I'm going to secondary school." I go there. I'm handicapped. And some of the students, some of those who have the even 1 good grades, distinction, when they go to the secondary school, just check. A number of them, after first or second year, are not able to cope. Their results are very different. That one is researchable anyway. But the interest of the child is always overlooked by just telling the child, you are going straight into this school. For me, it's a major problem. And I will go back to that system that we need to chart another road.
Yeah, but we had a chart where headmasters and headmistresses became demigods. You understand what I'm saying? They became 10 gods. As a matter of fact, in my village, when I was at Damango, growing up in Damango, the headmaster of Damango was even more powerful than the DC. You understand? You go to a place like Tamasco. Those times, no, Abuja, we didn't meet Abuja. But when you look at, you go to a place like Tamasco, you talk of George Belko and co. They were very powerful because they were the people who had made decisions as to whether your child was qualified to be in the school or not. So this system was supposed to address that situation. But as we speak, the problem is still there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So was it happening in the technical schools at that time?
No, but you see, the point is that I do the questioning though. But I don't want to add my opinion. But I have my own take when it comes to this technical issue. Anyway. But Dr. McQueen, very quickly, this whole issue of placement, of course, from what we've heard from Prof, it has a good intent and the reason and rationale behind it is excellent. But you agree with me that it has a lot of challenges. It has a lot of problems. What is the cause? What can be done about? What is the way forward? What is your recommendation?
Right. But before I come to my recommendation, as Prof was trying to see the interest of the child, I have one of my info students who just completed conducting a research into this placement issue where students are placed outside their interest area. You see, somebody wants to do, let's say, general arts, but because his aggregate is very good, you go and put the child in a science classroom. And because the school says that based on your BEC performance, we think you can do science.
That's right.
Meanwhile, you don't even have
Meanwhile, the person doesn't have the interest in science. And it so happens that the person will now go and then have problems with one or two results in the science area, and then he's unable to continue to the point. Now, as a stopgap measure, because the only thing that can really do away with all these problems that has to do with problems is where we have enough secondary schools in our communities. But as of now, it says for the next 20 years, we are not going to have that number of secondary schools that will bring this issue down. So as a stopgap measure, I will go in for a hybrid kind of a system where a percentage will still be set aside for general placement and another percentage for instance, the issue of people within the local area having access, about 30% or so. And then interest. You see, somebody can come with a very good aggregate. The school should be flexible enough to say that, well, your aggregate is very good, but we are not going to put you in a science class. Based on your interest, we are going to put you in the art class or the whatever class. That should be. And that one, I think, should be the preserve or should be in the domain of the headmasters. That rigid way of placing kids when their names come to the school in programs should be a matter of the past. It should be a discussion between the parents and the kids. Fine, their names, all the names are there, that these are the people who have placed to your school. But before you decide to place them in the programs, call the parents, call the kids, and let them tell you where we want to do.
42,000 students.
Within the schools, it's possible to do it.
I mean,
the national level, the placement is down to the schools. Fine, so that one, based on the schools that the kids have selected. But when they get to the school, there's another form of placement, I was saying, where the authorities place them in
the various subjects, their interest. There should be a consultation, a dialogue.
Because we've realized, based on the research that my student did, that is causing a lot of harm to the students.
I agree with you. But on the same issue of placement, you know, we have this whole issue of checking your placement on the internet. Go to a place like Fetenta, Kwame Sekwa, or Fabodiebetum Chalk. They've never seen a computer before. But we are asking the child to check his or her results on the internet. Sometimes you buy a scratch card to load, and you know how our communication system is in this country. Can there be another way around apart from?
Yeah, there should be a way around. In fact, I bought one. You are even lucky you're talking of a scratch card. I bought one for 7 CDs, some small piece of paper. It was just typed, and but the following day that paper was missing. I couldn't use it. I think that we should be proud enough to have a way where the children and their parents access the results free of charge.
Free of charge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You see, yes, because by a click of a button,
yes.
whatever
somebody will have to be paid for putting that information there for you to access it. They pay examination fee. So invariably, the money that you are going to use to pay the scratch card can be added to the examination fees. Okay. It's part of the
does not stop with the child sitting and writing the paper.
No.
The scoring or marking of the script, plus the communication of the results. It's part of the exams, and I've paid for it.
Yes.
Now, look at the issue of private candidates. Those days, if you register, you pay the fees. At the end of it, they post the results to you.
Yes. Exactly.
It's part of what you have paid. So why should I go and buy another card to assess my results when I've paid examination fees?
And the worst thing about the card is that maybe it's given to a district or municipal office, and that office also sublets that to some individuals, and they also put in 1 or 2 CDs on top of whatever to make their commission. I mean, what? So you see, it makes a mockery of the whole idea about it. In any case, those results are not secret. They are not secret. So
and they're not supposed to be treated.
But finally, I think we've had an extensive discussion on this issue of the JHS, JSS. Definitely, there's no way that we will be able to address all the issues. But let's try and wrap up on this issue. Professor Pufa, Associate Professor of Education, somebody who have had extensive experience when it comes to teaching, right from the pupil teacher level through middle school. I mean, you have it all. Let's say you have the opportunity, the single opportunity being called by the President of this Republic, President Mahama. Professor Pufa, give me at least within a very short summary, 2 minutes, how would you be able, if you are given the opportunity, to try as much as possible to make the JHS concept relevant and useful to the socio-economic development of this country? What will be your response?
The first thing is that I must equip the schools.
Equipment
I
of
must
the
get the correct teachers. When I mean equip, I mean human element. Yes, look, there are a lot of schools that are actually that do not have.
You know, today even the research teaching allowance is scrapped. The president. But on a very light note. But so if you talk of getting teachers, it means money. Why are you taking the money from?
Oh, you see, let me tell you, the late Bangu told us when I was chairman of the board of directors of the sports council that we should plan to hold the Olympic Games. Okay. I laughed, but when he rolled out the ideas,
so I want you to roll the idea out.
Those of us sitting down here must solve the problem.
Okay.
But there must be a stock-taking exercise of all the empty classrooms.
Okay.
And the stock-taking exercise of the people we need in the various primary and JSS.
Okay.
That is 1. 2, I would want to see, he is a specialist, but I will call it a type of sieving exercise right from day 1.
Okay.
You see, and don't forget, we have all types of policies. Ghanaian language being taught in Winneba. And in Winneba here, they say you teach it at the first 3 years, right? When Efutu land, they don't learn it. They learn that the fancy is taught. So me, Dagati man, I am here working. You expect my child to go and learn?
Yes. You have extensive knowledge, and I mean you have whole repertoire of knowledge when it comes to issue of education. Just tell me in 2 minutes, if you are talking to the President of the Republic or any ordinary Ghanaian to address the whole issue of education with specific reference to what JHS, basic education or JHS, what would be your response? What would be your answer?
Yeah, my answer is that I will tell the President that as a country, the first step that we have to take is to answer the question, what type of Ghanaian do we want in a JHS level? And when I say that, we're talking about the philosophy behind our curriculum. So if you know that a Ghanaian JHS level should be able to do this, have this, then that is the first point. Then based on it, we reform our curriculum. Let's say, what type of curriculum can produce that type of Ghanaian? As we sit now, we don't have any educational philosophy. When I say, ask them, when you talk about an educated Ghanaian, what is it? What standards should we use to measure educated Ghanaian?
Who can read, write? I mean, somebody who can exist within a community, somebody who is computer literate.
Something that would differentiate the
that is not different from the American.
You don't need to read and write to be educated. When you read and write, you are illiterate.
So we must
Yeah,
go
okay,
back.
okay, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree
We
with
must
you.
go back to the philosophy. Because British have it. When I say the educated British, they know who the British is. And everything about education is tailored towards that. The Americans have it. And we must also have it. And that is what will give us focus. So as a country, we must first go back to the basics. When we talk of an educated Ghanaian at the JHS level, who should that person be?
Your last word, Professor Pufa.
My last word.
Last word.
Well, it's a dream. My last word is a dream that all the basic schools have teachers, good teachers. And my dream is that at the end, irrespective of the type of person we want to produce at the JSS level, each child should be able to say, this is where I want to go, this is where I want to go, this is where I want to stay, and stay comfortably. I'm talking about SSS education and vocational and technical education.
No, yes. My last word is, as a country, we must not always be in haste to solve our problems. We have to get a deeper understanding of our problems scientifically, and then sit down and strategize. And also, one other thing that has made problem solving difficult in this country is change management. Definitely, when you were to bring about new things, there will be resistance in the system. But how you manage that resistance will determine the success or otherwise of that program.
Thank you very much. I think I would like to thank Professor Pufa and Dr. Bequin for coming on this program. This has been Jinapor's Take. Today we looked at the whole concept of the JHS within the spectrum of our educational development. I think some of the most important issues that came up was, for us as a nation, we need to go back and look at the basis. It is not too late. I think we can. And it looks as if, as a people, we are overly interested in standardized testing. We seem to be more interested in trying to more or less cut down the people, because that is where we'll be able to address the issue. This is my take. I think as a nation, even though the JHS concept is very, very necessary, it's very important, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that the JHS concept, based on this whole idea of vocationalism, practicalism, and this whole issue of technical education, is something that is going to inure to our benefit as a people. But unfortunately, characteristic of us as a people, we've always put it in the paper. I think we need to do something better than that. And I think as a nation, our country has not industrialized enough, because you cannot talk of vocational technical education when you don't have the job market to pick the people. So I think I agree with Professor Pufa, I agree with Dr. Bequin. Let's go back to the basis. It is not too late. We've had a number of educational reforms, but I think we can still do it better. Thank you, and thank you for watching today's Take, a Jinapor's Take. You are very good.